Let me just start off by saying that it was somewhat cloudy yesterday, and honestly, I was in a haze the entire day. I think there should be a new law that's instituted at work that if it's cloudy, they have to like formally give you some time to take a nap. Okay, that should just be a law that somebody passes. If your boss is like, hey, where are you going? You can just be like, hey, I'm taking a nap. It's the law, okay? I don't make the rules up. When it's cloudy, we should get naps. That should be something like if anybody ever ran for office and that was like at the forefront, they're going to offer everybody a nap when it's cloudy outside. I'm totally, they're getting my vote. It is what it is. Anyways, all buffoonery aside, let's get straight into today's video because right after this, I'm definitely taking a nap. But yeah, look, I really quickly wanted to give you guys my personal take on the newest Spider-Man. I should say this is the final Spider-Man trailer that we're supposed to be getting. And it's funny because I was very hyped for this movie, and I have been very hyped for the MCU for the last few years. I genuinely enjoyed Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and a few other projects that they've had. I genuinely enjoyed Marvel Zombies. But I have to say, the last few trailers, like Avengers Doomsday, I was very disappointed. I was all over the place for it. And leading up to this particular trailer, I was definitely very excited for a brand new day. Unfortunately, this trailer, it's very bittersweet. Like, there are some amazing sequences, and I've definitely enjoyed what they're leading up to with this film. Like, I genuinely enjoy the fact that, my boy Tom Holland here is going through it. He's going to have to pop a few antidepressant pills throughout this film because he's going through a lot of stuff. Aunt May is dead. She's recently passed away. We know Green Goblin ended her. And then we have Ned, who's his best friend, completely forgot about him, doesn't remember him. And then we have the love of his life, MJ, who's also forgotten who he is. And apparently, according to the some parts of the trailer, it does appear that she's moved on. So it's really painful to see him go through this. It's very reminiscent of Spider-Man #2 from Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire, where he's just going through like very realistic situations. He's just going through life, and I feel like that's exactly what's happening with this particular film. And I really like that he's going through just kind of the grueling situations that life presents you throughout your years here on planet Earth. And it was very gritty. It felt very deep and very heavy. Unfortunately, the last trailer did something that I did not like. Right, leading up to this, we knew that like Tarantula might make some sort of appearance. The Hand was going to be featured, and Scorpion. And after this trailer, it makes me believe that all of those great villains may just be decoys. Like there's a sequence where Scorpion and Spider-Man are actually going at each other. They're fighting, which is very reminiscent of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the animated series. If you guys haven't watched it, it's an amazing series that I definitely highly suggest. But it really showcased how powerful Scorpion is, and they just gave him like an amazing backstory, and it just kind of showcased how he could go toe to toe with Spider-Man. And I felt like them crossing that into or applying that into the live action MCU was really going to work. But unfortunately, that's not what they're doing, because there is a part in this trailer or in this teaser where he basically says, or Spider-Man says something to Scorpion, and then Scorpion says something along the lines of, you still think it's Scorpion in here. Like it just feels like he's a decoy for a bigger villain. The same thing happens with Hulk, where he says, Bruce Banner is in here, this is just Hulk. And I'm not sure exactly how to feel about that. I felt like these villains, even if they were showcased, even if it was going to be like a short montage, I wanted it to be those villains. I wanted him to fight Tarantula. I wanted the Hand to be a point of emphasis. And it just feels like this is yet another stepping stone for a bigger event within the MCU. I'm not sure exactly what they're introducing. The theories out there are that there's some sort of mutant being featured in here, whether it's like Jean Grey or somebody else. Again, we don't have confirmation on who the main villain is, but clearly it's somebody that can manipulate or that can interact with people or take over people or possess them in some way. And that's why a lot of people feel like it could potentially be the X-Men. And again, if this is going to be another one of those situations where Spider-Man is just being utilized as a stepping stone to introduce a new character or a new phase of the MCU, you can count me out, because that's absolutely ridiculous. Spider-Man deserves to be a main character in his own story. That's never been the case. Every time we finally get a really good storyline featuring Tom Holland, there's somebody in the background, whether that's Doctor Strange doing his buffoonery, whether that's Iron Man doing his nonsense. I'm not saying that we don't want cameos or other characters from the MCU being a part of the story, but I just don't like it when they're trying to shove or cram those characters down our throats. Like, the Punisher being in this film doesn't necessarily feel too unnatural. I could understand that as he's going through the progression of this story, he's going to run into certain MCU characters. I have no problem with it. I think it's perfectly acceptable. The problem is when it just feels like this isn't a legitimate Spider-Man movie, right? That's one of the bigger problems. And I just feel like this film could have been self-encapsulated or as much as you can possibly make it. There's still going to be an after credit scene. There's still going to be some connections and ties to the grander MCU, but I think the bulk of this should have just been, here's Spider-Man, he's going through turmoil in his life, and there's a lot of things happening around here. There are still villains that he has to take out. He's going through a transition with his powers and his body, and I really wanted them to kind of delve into that and showcase it. And unfortunately, that doesn't appear to be happening. Now, I know that the Sonyverse is in absolute shambles right now. A lot of the stuff that they were doing, from Craven to the latest Venom film, even Madam Web, were absolute garbage. But honestly, it may be time. I mean, like, if this film just feels like another entry into another phase of the MCU, I think Sony needs to do something. Like, they need to step in, take the Spider-Man movies, do something where it feels like it's a Spider-Man universe rather than Spider-Man has a tiny little corner of the MCU where whatever happens, it doesn't really matter, because there's always going to be something in the grander scheme of things that, will kind of override anything that Spider-Man does. Right, and that's exactly what it felt like in Infinity War and Endgame. Like, Spider-Man was dealing with his like low-level threats. He was dealing with the street crime in New York City. But unfortunately, when these bigger catastrophic events happen, it kind of just nullifies everything that Spider-Man could do to help his city. And it's really unfortunate. I'm very hyped for this movie. I'm still going to be there day one. I'm still going to, enjoy it and bask in the glory that is, a brand new Spider-Man movie, even if Tom Holland isn't my favorite Spider-Man, even if I'm not like the biggest fan of what the MCU has done with this particular franchise. I'm still going to be there just because he is one of my favorite characters. All in all, I'm being very cautious. I'm excited. This is, I think, has the bare bones. It has the foundation to be a really good story about growth and development from a somewhat young character in the MCU, but I do feel like there's the potential for them to fall into some very bad pitfalls and some really disgusting tropes that we just don't need in any MCU Spider-Man movies. But again, this is just my personal opinion, my personal take. I'm very curious to see what all of you guys have to say. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you guys agree, disagree with me? Did you like the newest teaser, or the newest trailer? Or I should say the final trailer. The film is set to release next week. So again, just let me know your thoughts. Stay safe out there. Enjoy the hobby. Read some comic books. Watch some movies. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.